and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Catskills. Our minister is Reverend Bob Janis. I'm Jenny O'Grady-Giddy, a member of the Worship Committee and the Worship Associate for this morning. Thanks to the tech team who are here helping with the service today, Bruce and Lydia. Welcome to our Zoom attendees this morning. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers. We are guided by a set of principles and written sources that encompass the many ways we come to know and understand the world, the universe, and the divine. Our principles are important to us at UU Catskills, and we live our values on a daily basis. We acknowledge that our sanctuary is built on Lene Lenape land. We affirm that Black Lives Matter. We are a welcoming congregation for the LGBTQ community, and we're a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defence Network. We are an active voice in the effort to address climate change. You can visit our website, uucatskills.org, to find contact information, also to be added to the mailing list and to find the latest newsletter. If you're a visitor online and would like to be added to our mailing list, you can put your name and email address in the chat box area of Zoom. If there are any visitors here today who would like to stand up and be welcomed, you could do so now. We encourage you to read our newsletter that members and others on our distribution list receive by email. It's also found on the website. Weekly updates are sent by email, and there you'll find events for the coming week. We also show upcoming events on slides prior to the service, and I have one important announcement to reiterate. Our service next week is Pride in New Paltz. Arrive at 11 a.m. at the middle school to march and stop by our table afterwards. Now we'll have the prelude played by Catherine Catabiani, Concerto in F, second movement, by George Gershwin. we'll light the chalice. Thank you, Vickie. And if you'll say with me, we light this chalice in grateful, loving community. Even in the darkest of times, may its flame light paths to courage, justice, and hope. And please join with me in reciting our unison affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other. Today, our speaker is Vickie O'Doherty, a longtime member of UUCC, a member of the Worship Committee, and a passionate devotee of environmentally friendly gardening. And you'll get a hint of what the service is about if you see the quote that she's prefaced the order of service with by E.O. Wilson, one of the great minds of the last century. There can be no purpose more inspiring than to begin the age of restoration, reweaving the wondrous diversity of life that still surrounds us. And Vickie's chosen a poem by one of our favorite poets, Mary Oliver, I Happen to Be Standing. I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep, half asleep in the sun? Does the opossum pray as it crosses the street? The sunflowers, the old black oak growing older every year. I know I can walk through the world, along the shore or under the trees, with my mind filled with things of little importance, in full self-attendance. A condition I can't really call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition, or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze, maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep, maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why, and yet, why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. That's your business. But I thought of the wren singing. What could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air. And now we'll have Catherine play and we can sing the hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
Yeah, this message is for you. Okay, I've got the children's message today, all right, which is it's called Rivers by Christopher Buyse, not Boyce. Once upon a time, there were two rivers. Two. Both rivers liked to argue about who was the best. The water in my river is better than the water in your river, said one. No, the water in my river is better than the water in your river, said the other. The two rivers would flow along all day arguing about which river was the best. Both were quite sure they were the greatest. Doesn't my water make a joyful sound as it runs over the smooth, polished pebbles on my bottom? And look at the way the sun reflects off the ripples and eddies that form around the granite boulders at my edge. These things are so beautiful. Surely I am the best river, said the first. The other river replied, but look at all the fish that swim in my clear, cool water. And have you heard the frogs singing at night? They live in the reeds and lilies that grow at my banks. I am home to so many wonderful creatures. So surely I must be the very best river. The two continued to argue until one day something strange and unexpected happened. The rivers rounded a bend, slid down a small waterfall, and suddenly saw that they were flowing towards something much bigger and greater than themselves. Up ahead were big, crashing waves and water everywhere for as far as they could see. They continued to rush faster and faster until the water from both rivers churned together into the vast and enormous ocean. Then a sound came from the sky. It came from a cloud that chuckled for a moment and then said, "Now you see how foolish you have been arguing about who is the best? There is no highest or lowest. There is no greatest or least. All things are one, and all are joined together like rivers in the sea." So that's the story for today. And our children are heading off to the other building? No? They're staying? Okay, whatever they want to do.
There is childcare though.
There is childcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we got if you want to do that.
Now we're a time for joys and sorrows, and if any.
Oh, yes. We're going to do a silent meditation, okay, except I've got some background sound for you. The music was compliments of our birds.
That was so wonderful and peaceful. It just felt like we were in the woods. And I didn't feel like I needed to get out my app to identify the birds. Now let's take the offering. For the month of May, our half-plate donation goes to Hudson River Sloop Clearwater. Its mission is to protect the Hudson River by inspiring lifelong stewardship of the river and its tributaries with innovative advocacy through education programs.
The title of the service today is Homegrown National Park. As a Unitarian Universalist, I use our 7 principles as a guide and covenant in my life. Today I will speak about our 7th principle that is a part of my life. The 7th UU principle calls for respect for the interdependent web of all existence. Oh yeah, thank you. Of which we are a part. Hear me now? And I'll repeat that again. It's respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Reverend Forrest Gilmore, a UU minister, says that our 7th principle may be our Unitarian Universalist way of coming to fully embrace something greater than ourselves. The interdependent web expressed as the spirit of life, the ground of all being, the oneness of all existence, the community-forming power, the process of life, the creative force, even God, can help us develop that social understanding of ourselves that we and our culture so desperately need. It is a source of meaning to which we can dedicate our lives. I see the seventh principle as a personal responsibility, whether it's about being an environmental steward or about social justice issues. I know that I am part of the interdependent web of all existence. Throughout my life, I felt a calling to be a steward of the natural world. Nature has called me ever since I was a kid on my grandparents' farm in Greene County. I would tromp around the woods and fields in awe of the raw beauty all around me. My grandparents owned 150 acres in the town of Acre and had 3 garden plots where my grandfather grew vegetables organically at a time when gardening chemicals were king. His logic was that he didn't want to waste money on chemicals, that he needed to improve his rocky soil, and because he believed that it was the better way. Later, as a preteen, I joined the Girl Scouts, where I was lucky enough to be in a troop that spent lots of weekends camping in Girl Scout camps in Westchester County. One of our ideals was to leave a place better than we found it. If we were camping and found trash left by others, we would clean it up. I have camped and hiked since then and still hold that ideal as a sacred tenet. I have visited 5 national parks and a few New York State and New Jersey State parks in my lifetime. I actually worked for Gateway National Park in New York City as a young adult, but I never considered my own garden or the rest of my property as a wildlife preserve. Through the work of entomologist Doug Tallamy, I have learned that my own Homegrown National Park may be the last chance that we have to preserve sustaining plants and animals that used to be commonplace in the United States. Through the work of Doug Tallamy, I learned that our landscapes play a central role in this resilience of nature in our future. We are all acculturated to know that plants are decorations and exist solely for beauty. Plants are a gardener's palette used to express an artistry in the garden. The way we landscape our properties is seen by our neighbors as a willingness to follow cultural norms. We also express our social status and wealth with how our garden looks. According to Doug Tallamy, we have no idea of just how vital biodiversity is for our own survival. Our nation's biodiversity depends more and more on human decisions about our home and work landscapes for the existence of our American native species. Native species are rapidly diminishing in our states, counties, towns, and even our neighborhoods. And we were never taught how crucial biodiversity is for our own survival. The population of the U.S. has more than doubled since I was a kid. Our expansive lifestyles are dependent on the automobile, and we have a tendency to want larger and bigger homes. This way of life has caused unprecedented development that expands over 2 million acres per year, which is the size of Yellowstone National Park. We connected both old and new developments with 4 million miles of roads, which is about 5 times the size of New Jersey. Our developments have resulted in the planting of over 62,000 square miles, or 40 million acres of lawn. This amount of lawn is about the size of New England. I laugh when I see a development that is named Oak Ridge or Cedar Knoll, because you would be hard-pressed to find an oak or a cedar in those places. Most of the remaining small wood lots and open spaces that aren't manicured lawn or paved roadways have been taken over by invasive plant species such as autumn olive, oriental bittersweet, buckthorn, privet, and bush honeysuckle. 58% of the lower 48 states are a complex of cities, suburbs, airports, power lines, pipelines, golf courses, and isolated habitats. Agriculture takes up 41% more of the U.S. To the horror of every nature-loving American, we have turned 95% of the natural world into an unnatural disaster. So why does it matter? Why should we care? It matters because the health of biodiversity affects us also. Our animals need shelter and food to survive and reproduce, and we need our fellow creatures because we depend on them to run the ecosystems that help us survive. The seventh principle in UU says that we are a part of the interdependent web of all existence, but most people feel apart from the web. We like nature and feel good in it, but we exist mostly apart from it. Nature is somewhere and something else. You should feel threatened by the loss of biodiversity, of which we are a part, because biodiversity is our life support system. Plants provide oxygen and clean water. They also provide topsoil from rocks and buffer us from droughts and floods. Insect decomposers are a central part of the cycles of nutrients that birth and support new plants and animals. The existence of 80% of all plants and 90% of all flowering plants depend on the existence of pollinators. And birds and mammals in our ecosystem disperse seeds from those plants and also provide us with pest control. With human-sourced climate change that threatens our planet, plants can help save us by taking up the excess carbon from the air. They can build more plant life with it and then put the rest of the carbon back into the soil for long-term storage. Humans cannot survive as the only species on Earth because other species create the ecosystem services that are vital to our existence. Biodiversity is not an option, it is a necessity. According to Doug Tallamy, parks aren't enough to stem the tide of species losses. The things that can save us all, the thing that can save us all is that we need to give our local animals what they need to live in our gardens and yards, what they need to eat, what they need to survive. What Doug Tallamy recommends to save us all is native plants. The fact is that the way energy moves through the food web is that animals get their energy from plants or by eating some other animal that has eaten a plant. Insects are the main group of animals that pass energy from plants to other animals that don't eat plants. Insects are a vital component of a healthy ecosystem. The animals that depend upon food for food range from spiders, reptiles, amphibians, rodents, and 96% of all terrestrial birds. Insects are the bird feeders. That's what they are. If you remove insects from the equation, these animals are doomed. According to Cornell University, we have already lost 25% of our birds since 1970 because there aren't enough insects to eat and to feed their young. This is the way that plants interact with insects. Every plant species has a particular nasty chemical in its leaves that are specific to that plant. The purpose of this chemical is to ward off insects that will eat them. Only insects that have shared a long evolutionary history with those plants have adapted to be able to eat those particular plants. When New York State insects are presented with plants that evolved on another continent, it is most likely that those insects cannot eat that foreign plant. We brought in these foreign plants because they were advertised as pest-free. We thought it was a good thing. As an example, I'll give you an example right now. Kusa dogwood from China cannot be eaten by insects, our insects. But a native flowering dogwood can support 117 moths and butterfly species in the one tree. Research by Doug Tallamy has shown that native ornamentals support 29 times more animal diversity than do foreign ornamental plants. If the foreign ornamentals escape our gardens and grow in natural areas, they reduce the insect population by 96%. To avoid the worst of a sixth mass extinction event and to sustain essential ecosystems, everyone who owns land has a responsibility to enhance local ecosystems by including native plant species. And for people who do not own land, they can volunteer for a local park or land conservancy, some of which are doing important work on enhancing the survival of our native plant species. I'll give later I have some information about that. The National Wildlife Federation has an online resource to help people find native plants for your area. Go to the website and select Native Plant Finder, and after you enter your zip code, you'll get a ranked list of native woody and herbaceous plants. And I'll tell you right now, for our area, this is number 1. the oak tree. Okay, Jenny brought that in from her.
And it's a northern red oak.
Northern red oak, good one also. Here are some practical things that you can do to enhance biodiversity from Doug Tallamy's website that is called Homegrown National Park. Number one, shrink the lawn. Every square foot dedicated to lawn is a square foot that is degrading local ecosystems. Turf grass offers no ecological benefits, but is nice to walk on and will survive you walking on it. Or have kids playing on it is another thing it can do. Doug suggests we reduce our lawns by half for walkways, play area for kids, or outdoor entertainment. And then landscape with paths that define beds and tree rows. Number two, remove invasive species. Invasive plants are ecological tumors that spread unchecked into our local ecosystems. Number three, plant keystone genera. And these are like the top 5 plants that you can plant that every insect around you almost can feed on those 5 plants. Oak being one of the top 5 here, okay. Number 4, be generous with your plantings. Don't plant 1 tree, plant 2. Reduce the nighttime light pollution. Research is showing that our porch and security lights are major causes of insect decline. Consider turning off your lights at night. Use a motion detector security light, that's fine. Or replace your light bulb with a yellow light bulb, an LED light bulb. Network with neighbors and get on the Homegrown National Park map. He's on his website. Build conservation hardscape. One of the, he talks about is setting your lawnmower to no lower than 3 inches. This gives you healthier, greener grass that requires less watering, and also lets you drive over the box turtle that's passing through, or the toad. Okay, so, and try not to mow in the evening also, because nocturnal species leave their hiding places and come out into your lawn. Install a bubbler as a water feature. That's another one. Number 8, create caterpillar pupation sites under your trees. I did a faux pas on that one this year. I had my oak tree out front. I raked the leaves, okay? If you leave the leaves or do an under tree planting that holds those leaves or lets the insects hide in there, that's part of that pupation site. Don't spray insecticides or herbicides, and don't fertilize. You shouldn't need it if you've got healthy organic matter in the soil. Educate your neighbors, your town, etc. If they say, you can't have that in the front yard, you know, maybe you want to fight it. Okay. So I have now a short slideshow of the work that my wife Leela and I have done with our property. And we're still working on it, okay? It's a work in progress. So you'll see lawn, all right? And I have a handout of resources on the table over there, and a list of things you can do for our native plants and animals is in the website that's on there. So, Jenny's going to be our projectionist. Yeah. That's me. It's a little meadow. It says here the New York Botanical Garden. That's where Jenny got the slide. This is my bird feeder. It's a giant, I can't get my arms all the way around the trunk. It's an oak tree in the front. It's a white oak, this one. And there are actually 2 oak trees in the front, but as I said, I blew the leaves away this year. Next year it's going to be a little different. Next. My head's in the way? Okay, I'll put my head away. This is a Japanese red maple that came with the property, but here's the good thing about some of those trees that are not native, is that it does take in the carbon dioxide from the air and gives back oxygen. So I'm not cutting it down. It's pretty, so it's okay. But it doesn't support any life. Next. No, these here are eastern red cedars that I got from my sister-in-law. It was invading her little garden, and so I said, well, I'll take them. Eastern red cedars are pretty fast growing, and there's a cedar waxwing, likes the berries that come on those, and they do spread, though, I gotta So if you got a field, they're okay in that. Next. These are bushes that we got at Catskill Native Nursery, which is our local native plant source. And this is a serviceberry over here, beautiful flowers. And by the way, I don't know what I was drinking that day, but it's a little wonky, the picture. And these are 9 barks. And this one is now flowering with beautiful pink flowers. So these can look beautiful. There's white flowers on these, and the bees love that. They came over and they were all in it. Next. You saw the grass. Go on. This is a plant that I got from. I also dabble in climate action team. Okay, they had a group buying last year, 2022, something like that. Yeah, and I participated in that. Took a bunch of these. This is a sumac. It's an odd sumac. It's more bushy than tree, and so I planted that. And it was a twig. I'm telling you, it really was a twig. State DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, has a sale, and you got to get in there January 1 to get the stuff. Really cheap, okay? But they grow. I mean, this is 2 years later, okay? So it's doing pretty well. You asked about, what is this called? Rhododendron. Rhododendron, yeah. They are native plants, and they're gorgeous. This is ours in flower right now. There's our bird bath over there for the birds, which I haven't got a bubbler yet, but I will. Next. This is a butterfly, and I can't remember the name of it. I didn't write it down.
Swallowtail.
Thank you. Name that butterfly. Good. So the swallowtail, it wasn't here, but you will notice lilacs. Lilac's not native, but it does feed our butterflies and our pollinators. They do eat the pollen off of them. So it stays. Next.
Are all lilacs not native?
I think that, I don't know, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I'm not certain. This was in my garden. I do veggie garden, right? There was a weed that I thought was a weed. It was a Queen Anne's lace. That's what it's eating. And it's also a swallowtail, but a different kind than the other one. And it's eating this plant, and I went out there one day and said, ooh, look at that. I eventually found another one, but it was gone in one day. And I know it didn't become a butterfly overnight. What happened was a bird probably got it. So it was bird food.
What is that plant?
Queen Anne's lace, but it also likes dill and a few other things that it likes. So when I plant dill, I often find them on there. This is a monarch butterfly egg that I found on my milkweed. They're really small. It's about the size of a pinhead, okay? But I found that out there. And the next one. Then I found this guy. Okay, that's a monarch butterfly caterpillar. And what they do, they have an interesting thing that they do, which is, and the milkweed has a giant vein running down the middle. They snip the vein, and then they go eat the end of the leaf, because there's a sap in that vein that will gum up their jaws and they can't eat. So they have to snip the vein, let it ooze out, not go continue down the end of the leaf, and then they eat the rest of the leaf.
So milkweed survives winter here?
It plants itself. The seeds are all over the place. Yeah, and there are seeds available too that you can buy.
Native.
Yeah, it's native. Mm-hmm. This is a painted turtle that came every year into the backyard, and it's digging a hole to lay its eggs. The thing was this big. I got a local swamp. It comes over from the swamp, and I'm in suburbia. Okay, so Leland and I live a house in suburbia with the head trauma center behind us. So we always joke that if we fall down, hit our heads, we'll crawl through the woods to the head trauma center. Okay, anyway, so that's what we do. So next, we may meet the turtle on the way. This is a smaller one that came through this year. I was out there in the garden, and I see this little turtle coming through. This big. It must be baby from Big Mama. So, and it just kept trucking. This is an invasive species example. This is called garlic mustard, and it's got these white little flowers on top. And if you like take a leaf and smell it, it smells like garlic. But it's an invasive species, and it's all over the back area of my woods. And I'll get out there one day and pull it, hopefully before the seeds come. But that's garlic mustard.
It's edible.
It is edible, so you could cook it. Yeah, people make pesto sometimes with it. Next. This is that oriental bittersweet that I mentioned before. That's the bittersweet right there. And people use it at Christmas for those red berry decorations. Okay, that's what it is. But you don't want to get it to the red berry part, because that's when the birds take the berries and fly them off elsewhere. One thing about berries, okay, our native birds like native plant berries because they have fat in them. I didn't know this till now. They do not have fat, and they need the fat to survive their flight back to the Southlands where they can warm up. So they need our native berry plants, which, when I showed you the service berry, that's a native berry plant. So that has fatty berries. So I think that's the end. Yes, that's the end of the slideshow. So I do have over there, I've got a handout. I have about, I don't know, I have a few, 18 now. I think I gave out 2 already. So I've got handouts over there that have resources, okay? So you can, in there you've got that native plant finder, okay, anyway, you've got that on that sheet, okay? So anyway, and I'll be around afterwards if you want to talk, all right? So our closing hymn today is number 1064 in your blue book. It's called Blue Boat Home.
Standing on
Our closing words today are a responsive reading, number 614, in the back of the book, the back of the gray hymnal. I will do the first stanza or paragraph, and you will do the ones in italics. Then I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell. And I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in the sacred manner the shape of all things of the Spirit. And the shapes as they must live together like one being. And I saw the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that make one circle, wide as daylight and starlight. And in the center, to shelter all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. These are the sacred words of Black Elk. Our extinguishing the flame words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And our sung benediction. I receive, to you I give, together we stand, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Thank you. Go in peace, and we do have coffee and refreshments over there for folks. Oh, and Jenny, go ahead.
Would anybody like to take home these oak trees and plant them in your garden?